12 o'clock, here is the Midday news. First, the top stories. Ogun State government may stop paying WAEC fees of public school students. Presidency OK's panel to negotiate new wage for workers. Relief underway for condemned convicts and prisoners jailed for life. Obasanjo blames militancy in Niger Delta and Northeast on government failure. In foreign, UK stops information sharing with US over media leak on terror attack. Protesters asking president to quit set public buildings on fire in Brazil. Good afternoon, I am Aghemerio Oaikhenan, bringing you the news in detail shortly. And now the news in detail. Governor Ibikuni Amosun has asked parents and guardians of final year students in the state public secondary schools to be ready to foot the bill of the West African Senior School Certificates Examination (WAEC) of their children. Amosun, who made the call at the closing session of Ogun State Education Summit in Abeokuta, says this will ease the pressure of funding education by his administration. The state government up to now is paying the WAEC bill of the students in the state public schools. Last year, the delay by the state government in paying the WAEC fees resulted in withholding of the result of students in public schools from the state until after the admission process into higher institution of learning had been concluded. Parents, according to the governor, should share in the responsibility of educating their children. For example, Amosu says the state have been billed 560 million naira by WAEC as fee of students in the state public secondary schools who wrote the 2017 West Africa Secondary School Certificate Examination. Also speaking at the Education Summit in Abeokuta, a business expert, Olufemi Awuyemi, asked the state government to focus on developing primary and secondary schools instead of establishing more tertiary educational institutions. The establishment of new tertiary educational institutions, according to him, should be left for private investors, while government should continue to manage the ones it had already established.
Goes into developing those principles and allowing some level of relationship. Otherwise, you won't be able to. You see, we can throw money at it, but there's some programs we can't throw money at it.
Ogun State government has begun the compilation of a list of heads of villages and communities in the state. Local government and chieftaincy commissioner Chief Jide Ojuko, who made this known in Abeokuta, explains that the measure is to update the ministry's database of approved villages and communities heads in the state. The commissioner also says the exercise will curb the excesses of illegal village heads. At the last count, Ojuko says 24 new obas had been installed by the state government in the past 2 years. A committee is being constituted by the presidency to begin the long-awaited negotiation of a 56,000 naira monthly minimum wage demanded by the organized labor. Labor and Employment Minister Chris Ngige made this known to the State House correspondent after the weekly meeting of the Federal Executive Council presided over by Acting President Yemi Osinbajo at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Ngige explains that the proposed committee will be made up of 6 state governors representing the 36 state governors, 5 federal government officials, officials from both the labor and the organized private sector. The minister says the committee will be headed by a neutral person. The committee, according to him, will be constituted after all the nominations have been made to take off the proposed negotiations. Governor Ayodele Fayose of Ekiti State has given operators of filling stations in the state a 24-hour deadline to resume the sale of petroleum products to motorists. The filling station stopped sale of products since Monday last week to protest the demolition of filling stations located in residential areas of Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, by the state government. On Tuesday, suspected thugs attacked most of the filling stations, vandalizing them. Governor Fayose, through his special assistant on public communication and news media, Larry Olayinka, on Wednesday threatened to revoke the certificate of occupancy (CFO) of any of the filling stations that fails to resume the sale of products by Thursday. Earlier on Wednesday, transport union members staged a rally in Ado-Ekiti, also giving filling stations a 24-hour ultimatum to reopen. Relief is underway for scores of condemned prisoners and those jailed for life as part of measures to decongest prisons nationwide. Interior Minister Abdurrahman Dambazao, who gave this indication, says the presidency is considering a state pardon for several of inmates in the country's prison system. The minister, addressing the State House correspondent after the weekly meeting of the Federal Executive Council at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, says the state pardon is one of the options being considered to decongest the prisons. Other options, according to him, is the conversion of death sentence of condemned convicts who have spent more than 10 years on death row to life jail, and some relief to those jailed for life who have spent more than 10 years in prisons. Dambazao explains that the presidency is concerned over the congestion, which he attributed to a large number of those awaiting trials, who constitute about 70% of the total prison's inmates. 35 more Nigerians have been deported from the UK back to the country for committing immigration-related offences. They included 30 males and 5 females. The deportees were flown into Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, early Wednesday aboard a chartered flight. Last March 31, 23 other Nigerians were also deported for similar offences. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has blamed the security threat posed by the Niger Delta militants and Boko Haram fighters to the country on the failure of the past government to address grievances. Obasanjo, speaking at a workshop on the prevention of violent extremism in Abuja, says everybody has some of extremism in him, which can graduate into violence if not immediately addressed. The indifference on the part of the government in the past two grievances turned both the Niger Delta militants and Boko Haram sect into monsters. For instance, Obasanjo says today's militants in the Niger Delta region were once regular people pushed to resort to violence when the grievances of the people of the region were ignored by the constituted authorities. He listed the grievances not addressed as including extreme poverty in the region and the indifference of oil companies prospecting for oil to the plight of the host communities. Obasanjo also says that Boko Haram began as a normal religious sect. You're still listening to the Midday News on Rock City 101.9 FM. Up next, we bring you foreign, business and sport news. Please stay with us. On the foreign scene, police investigating the Manchester Arena bomb attack have stopped sharing information with the US after leaks to the media. The force, which is leading the investigation on the ground, gives its information to National Counterterrorism, which then shares it across government, and because of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing agreement with the US, Australia, Canada and New Zealand. UK officials were outraged when photos appearing to show debris from the attack appeared in the New York Times. It came after the name of bomber Salman Abedi was leaked to US media just hours after the attack, which killed 22, including children, and injured 64. UK Prime Minister Theresa May is to raise concerns with Donald Trump at a NATO meeting later. Home Secretary Amber Rudd had said she was irritated by the disclosure of Abedi's identity against the UK's wishes and had warned Washington it should not happen again. Angry demonstrators in Brasilia have started a fire inside the Ministry of Agriculture and have damaged several other ministerial buildings. Brazilian authorities estimate around 35,000 are marching in the capital. Troops are being deployed to defend government buildings and there is a heavy police presence on the street. Protesters are demanding the resignation of President Michel Temer, fresh election and for economic reform plans to be withdrawn. Mr. Temer has faced new corruption allegations in the last week and he is facing growing pressure to step down. According to reports, several ministries are being evacuated because of the protest, but not before the Agriculture Ministry was damaged. Now in business, a tutoring app developed by a 27-year-old Nigerian has won an engineering award given by the UK's Royal Academy of Engineering. Godwin Benson designed Tutoria, a platform that links qualified tutors to students in the area and within their budget. He developed the platform based on the experiences he had as a tutor. The Engineering Innovation Award was launched in 2014 and rewards innovators in sub-Saharan Africa. Mr. Benson beat 16 participants to clinch the $32,000 prize money. Other entries in the competition included a system that reduces the amount of energy used to heat water, an app that controls water consumption, and a smart jacket to identify pneumonia. Finally, sport news. The Ogun State table tennis team will take on the Union Bank Table Tennis Club in a friendly game today at the Alake Sports Center Ikeja in Abeokuta, the state capital. The friendly game, according to the Secretary of the State Table Tennis Association, David Oshuolale, is to prepare the state players for the major championship in the country. Also, special edition of the monthly development table tennis tournament for the state cadet and junior players will hold on Saturday at the same venue. The association called on lovers of the game to come out and cheer the state table tennis side to victory in the friendly encounter. Manchester United has won the Europa League for the first time in their history thanks to a 2-0 victory over Ajax in Wednesday's final in Stockholm. Goals from Paul Pogba and Henrik Mkhitaryan secured the trophy and a route back into the Champions League group stage for next season, while bringing some joy to fans in what has been a deeply difficult week for the English city. United were largely on the defensive in the final half hour, but the lead was rarely under threat as they became the fifth team to win the Champions League, Europa League and UEFA Super Cup and returned to Europe's top table in style. That was the media news, and just before we go, the major stories once again. Ogun State government might stop paying WAEC fees of public school students. Presidency okayed panel to negotiate new wage for workers. Relief underway for condemned convicts and prisoners jailed for life. Obasanjo blamed militancy in Niger Delta and Northeast on government failure. In foreign, we told you that UK stopped information sharing with US over media leak on terror attack, and also reported was protesters asking president to quit set public buildings on fire in Brazil. For more stories and to listen to us live, please log on to our website www.rockcityfmradio.com/live. Thank you so much for listening. I am Aghemerio Oaikhenan. Good afternoon.